Unstoppable kick-ass confidence. Are you ready?
Welcome to the Raw and Unscripted Show with Christopher Rausch, where we help you overcome your self-created crap without the self-help fluffy bullshit. Now please welcome our host, Christopher Rausch.
Da-na-na-na-na-na. Please welcome our host, Christopher Rausch. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of the kick-ass Unstoppable Nation? It is I, Christopher Rausch, your host of the Raw and Unscripted. And we're back here yet another episode. We are live here on the video cast every single Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you want to catch this live as it's being recorded and have the opportunity to ask us questions live and engage in the conversation, feel free. By all means, go check out youtube.com/the Christopher Rausch or Christopher Rausch, R-A-U-S-C-H. If that is too much for you to remember, just go type in hashtag No Excuses Coach on Google and you will find the Raw Unscripted Show, Christopher Rausch. You will find all sorts of things by Christopher Rausch. And of course, we're on podcast players all over the world for you to get this content every single week. Like clockwork, we've been doing this for nearly 6 years. We're on episode 346. And I got to tell you, there have been some incredible episodes over the years that I'm truly proud of. And so my invitation to you is, if you have not heard the show before, if you're new to the show, and we've got a lot of people that are new, we're in 98 countries right now. So I'm super stoked about that. So thank you guys so much for checking us out. And if you wouldn't mind sending me an email, info@noexcusescoach.com, noexcusescoach.com, info@noexcusescoach.com. Send me an email. Let me know how you've been turned on to the Raw and Unscripted Show, and let me know where you're coming from and what it is that I can do to serve you. This show was built and has been created and has been sustained by the desire to make sure that every single week I show up here and I help you have a no excuses life. I help you live an unstoppable nature that doesn't say that everything is going to be easy, but it says that everything that comes in your line of sight, everything that comes into your lane of traffic, if you will be able to handle it. Not only will you be able to handle it unlike any other time that you had in your life before, but you're going to handle it with a sense of confidence and with a sense of understanding and knowing that through this challenge, through these hard times, that you're going to come out of the other side feeling more confident. You're going to feel more unstoppable. You're going to feel like you can handle anything because you're not going to crumble. It's not going to be a state of, oh, I'm overwhelmed. It's not going to be a state of negative self-talk, which so oftentimes puts people at a disadvantage with themselves right from the start. Oh my God, Chris, I'm so overwhelmed. Oh my God, things are so challenging. Oh my God, Chris, things suck. Oh my God, Chris, nothing's going on. Oh my God, Chris, I do everything wrong. Oh my God, Chris, when is it ever going to stop? Right? All that commotion that you're creating inside of your head is creating pandemonium. And what happens is your central nervous system goes, oh, hey, shit must be happening. I got to react to this. And what a lot of what's going on in people's lives is they're still in a heightened state of awareness since COVID. And I was just listening to some researchers that have talked about this. And we went into COVID as an experience that none of us had gone through before, number one. Number two, as a collective throughout the entire universe here in the spinning blue marble called Earth. But a lot of people haven't come out of that COVID heightened awareness. And what they're doing is they're burning themselves physically, mentally, and spiritually. So if you're listening to this and you're feeling burned out, I can promise you by the end of the 45 minutes in this conversation, you're going to have strategies that are going to help you redefine what it is that you consider to be a problem. Because so oftentimes if we redefine a problem, and I work with people a lot, whether it's in the professional space, the entrepreneurial space, the personal space, when I get people to redefine a problem as an opportunity, something clicks. So you have lots of opportunities in your life right now. And my guest tonight is going to bring a lot of opportunities for you to see your situation differently. I'm going to be asking him a bunch of questions about his journey and what it takes to be successful in different parameters and different aspects of life. But before we do that, last week here on the show, we talked about recapping our 2025 year. So a lot of people don't do this. A lot of people get started and get all excited about what's going to happen next year. I'm going to do this, and this is going to be different. And 2026 is going to be my bitch, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this. And I know this year I didn't do it, and I know this year I said I was going to do it, but next year's going to be it. I just know it. And I see people say that, and I see people do that. I see people type that, and it's still not their year. So one of the things that you need to do is you need to recap this year. You need to ask yourself some questions about the things you did and did not do. You need to get honest with yourself and have that reflective conversation. And that's exactly what we did last week. Is I offered you a ton of questions, probably about 9 questions. I mean, not anything that's overwhelming, but I gave you 9 questions in a couple of different categories or areas of life for you to ask yourself. And when you ask yourself those questions and you're honest in your answers, guess what? You have opportunity for growth. We have opportunity to shift your perspective. And when you shift your perspective, again, maybe you've been going through life feeling like a victim, feeling like it's always happening to you, right? But when you shift that perspective, just to realize that life is happening for you and not to you, and you realize that everything that has happened in your life and everything that is happening in your life is preparing you for what's next, guess what? That perspective of problems and overwhelm, why does this keep happening to me? Suddenly there's a cast of sunshine on that, and you start to realize, okay, it cannot be bad forever. And I've proven that without a shadow of doubt with people. Oh, it's always terrible. It's like when you start speaking differently to yourself, when you start rewiring your brain with opportunity, the power of perhaps, right? Shit does start to change. And so I encourage you to go back and listen to that episode. It's episode number 345. We recap the 2025 year. And then I also gave you some questions to start thinking about in terms of planning your 2026 year. Valuable stuff. Go back and check it out again. Episode number 345. This week we're on 346. And this individual that was referred to me, I had a conversation with him last week. I always pre-interview anybody who's going to be a guest on the Raw Unscripted Show. So you guys, you're getting top tier talent. I was really pleased. I love conversations when I have people that are going to come on the show, and I don't want that conversation to end. So without any further ado, let's please welcome Matthew Hill to the Raw and Unscripted Show. And Matthew's coming to us from another country. What's up, Mr. Matthew Hill? It is 8:00 p.m. in the UK. What's going on, brother? Thank you for being here on the Raw and Unscripted Show.
Another country, another continent, and it's 1953 here in London. Smoggy. Sherlock Holmes has just left the building. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good.
Sherlock Holmes, isn't that a cat? No, that's the Pink Panther, right?
The Pink Panther. My God, you're
weren't they both sleuths?
They're very good, very good. Yes, and now yes, Clouseau and all that. Well, the Louvre diamond raid in Paris the other week. There was a very funny meme the next day. Don't worry, Clouseau's on the case. It was going to be solved in 10 minutes. Very funny.
That's Robinson Crusoe, right?
Well, let's move on from this weird tour of UK cultural figures.
I love it. It's all rhyming together. It's all memeing together. But again, thank you for being here with us on the Raw Unscripted Show. Appreciate it. I'm excited to dive into this conversation for you. My first question to you, Mr. Matthew, is given what you heard me say at the beginning of the show and what the meaning and the purpose and the intent of the show is, the conversation is, in your heart of hearts, say you have a microphone to the entire world right now. What would you want them to know in the conversation we're about to have? What would you want the world to know to get out of this conversation that you especially want to impart upon people right now? And knowing what's going on in the people in your life and the people you serve, yeah. What would be that message? And then we're gonna pick that apart and talk about how we can help people.
I was listening to your intro, and it was you are a gold miner. You are a gold miner. There's shit everywhere. And you are a gold miner. You've got some marigold yellow things, and you're sticking it in. Let's start with an instant example. So COVID, my whole income for that year totally collapsed. You talk about next year's going to be my year. That year was going to be my year, and then it wasn't. Guess what opportunity came out of that, which was absolutely fantastic. It was this
Zoom.
thing called Continuing Professional Development Webinars for Lawyers and Accountants for the Government of Dubai. That crazy opportunity flapped its little wings, came in through the window, and I had a pretty decent financial year. Thank God for that. I was rescued. Why? They never want webinars. They don't want them now. But no one could meet. They had closed down the country. They wanted native British English, and they wanted someone who'd done this sort of stuff. Suddenly I was the superstar. And of course, accountants and lawyers, not famous for the old charisma. So they wanted someone who had a heartbeat, who had some warm blood going through their body. And we had such a laugh. Could you remember this? Do you remember? You and I are on camera right now. Audio people, just there's two really handsome guys having a chat. But those guys, they never put their camera on. So my thing was to get everyone to put their camera on. I mean, yeah, it's pretty normal these days, but it certainly wasn't 5 years ago. So out of absolute, oh my God, I can't feed the kids, we got a wonderful opportunity, made some fantastic friends, had a good time, made some new courses. It was all good.
So what did that teach you in that moment? Were you somebody who was able to pivot pretty quickly before, or was this something out of dire necessity that caused you to jump into something that maybe perhaps you weren't comfortable with or didn't want to do?
So here we are. So there's a scale, isn't there? With the I want 20 years notice. I want to draft it. I want no surprises. It must be perfection. There are other people who John Wayne it and shoot from the hip. I am somewhere in between. So as an adapted introvert, the Apple model of that is you're charging for 22 hours and you're performing for 2. So an adapted introvert, and we go. So I quite like to be sort of 70% prepared, 30% agile. And it was go. We put on new courses. One, I mean, can you imagine this? Storytelling. There's an ironic thing, in terms of, legal duties for finance people. Maybe they shouldn't have been encouraged to tell stories. But just what is the structure of communication? You and I will never be out of work because everyone needs to up their communication game. It is my pleasure, honor, duty, and privilege to be able to get people to use their voice, to use their words, to do all sorts of stuff, to clarify, to influence, to move, to get people to take action. It's why we're here. It's why we're happy.
Dude, you couldn't have said that better, Matthew, because I'm a firm believer. And when I think about, some of the tough lessons I've learned in my life, and I've learned a lot. And one of the great lessons that I learned from my mother in watching her, and I have these simplistic sayings that have gotten me through life. And now as a result of those sayings, I've helped, thousands of people. So one of my sayings is I'd rather be happy than right. Because
lovely.
Because my mother always had to be right. And so I started realizing at a very young age, I'm very keen at watching people because I grew up in a very abusive household. I grew up in a very excited household. Let's talk about that. I mean, so I realize now as a little kid, I had to be so on point watching for violence and watching for aggression and watching for drugs and alcohol. I had to be so cued into that. But part of what enables us to be so successful in life is the ability to be able to turn when things change so quickly. And so I believe that we have to have that ability to have that sense of confidence in those moments to know that we're going to be okay. And I think what happens, to your point, when you said, everybody needs this advanced warning, we need to have the temperature set right, we need to be everything needs to be perfect. Yeah. But it doesn't. It does not need to be perfect. What it needs to have is a good set of foundations. And so that foundation, number one, do I want to be happy or I want to be right? The second one, which you bled into perfectly, is seek first to understand, then to be understood. And through that communication, which I loved what you said also, is the clarification of the words that we use. And what I have found, honestly, Matthew, in the last couple of years alone, I've been asking people very specifically, I say, oh, Chris, that's so hard, or oh, that's so overwhelming, or that's impossible. And I just stop and I'm like, hey, you and I may have two different versions of impossible. I said, my version of impossible is I'm possible. It's cliche, but it works. I said, so what's impossible for you? I said, your physical energy, everything supports that it's impossible. And I believe you, but what makes it impossible? And then through that conversation, which I know you believe, through that process, they realize, no, it's not impossible. Yes, I am overinflating it. Am I self-sabotaging myself because I don't believe it? Am I self-sabotaging myself because I can't? So then we get into that deeper thing and we realize that the language that we use, when we start to pick apart that, we start to choose our words differently, the outcomes start to change. Do you find that as well in your work?
Exactly. Just riffing on that, I quite like a phrase. I can't remember it all, but it's just like, what do you feel it is which is temporarily giving you this vibe that part of this is not currently possible. And there's tons of hypnosis going in there.
Love
and
it.
there, you know, so the overall optimism is it's just a blockage. There's a physical blockage. It's a stone in the road. It's not a whole wall of China. You will get there. And even that gives them a nanosecond of vision of real, of possibility. And it's in your mind. It is temporary. It is a small blockage. If you name it, then you can get on with it. And that's
it's so true. So how was that for you growing up? I mean, what was one of the lessons you look back on in your life where you think, I'm so glad that I got that lesson, but boy, did that suck getting it at a young age?
Well, I'll tell you, a light or a heavy one, depends how you take it. I was in London for the first time I was 18. And long story short, I went to a bureau de change, a money changing place in Covent Garden. Some of the listeners will know that, or from watching some crazy British TV. And I went up this place and I had a note. I'm going to simplify it, a 100 franc note. What's that, Matthew? And I handed it over. I think this is the last piece of money I have got. This is the last piece of money. And of course, it wasn't French francs, which would have been £10 at the time, $17. It was Belgian francs, which was it was basically $1. And so I had this thing. So you can imagine this. I'm in Covent Garden. I was on my bike. That was the only good thing, because I couldn't even afford to get home. And I thought, okay. And you just had this moment, and it wasn't an awful moment. The guy behind the bulletproof glass, he was freaking out for me. Like, I thought he was going to sort of dive in and give me some change, like some sort of hobo. And I go, okay, right, we are here. It is now. This is a moment of light and possibility. This is the turn, and I've got to do something here. And I didn't panic. And I freaked out and I revved myself up, and I got a job that day in a bar. In the UK, bar work is not tips, it is salary. And I really went for it. We met. Have you heard of Julie Christie, the actress?
Yes.
Yeah. Served her a pint. The many failed political leaders, one of the greatest historians ever, one of the CND, the Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament. There's this famous priest, and I met all these people, and I rather like a story which we won't be repeating. Just before we went on air, I picked up a girlfriend as well. It was all good. It was all good. Would I have done any of that had I not reached zero? Probably not. It was a phenomenal idea. I was relatively introverted. And then we had this crazy stuff. So it was an amazing bar just behind the British Museum. When you have an empire, you get lots of stolen products and you put them in a special place. It's called the British Museum. And we'd have 5 deep at the bar on these special late night bar things. Normally the bars close at 10:30. This was 12, which was exotic and crazy in those days. Yeah. You would have 5 deep at the bar, and I was quick. I was easily the quickest barman in London. You were sloshing beer into these plastic pots, doing this. Everything was cash. Everything was in the head. And they'd put down cardboard because it was like a sea after about half an hour. And the time went in no time flat. I was happy. I was busy. And believe it or not, London was a super cheap town there. And so I accumulated tons of money. And with no tipping, just the salary. And so I was fed, I was watered. Quick on-air confession for Californians. My friends did all drink for free. I think the barman's dead now, so it's okay. It was absolutely, actually one of those things. Corporate do. So you rang up the drinks, but they didn't take the money because the corporate was going to pay. So what did they say? Matthew, have a drink on me. We couldn't take the money, so we took the drink off my face. By the time I remember clearing up, I thought, why don't
your first night
record at the Tower of Pisa? Let's get all these glasses together. Why make 6 trips when we can make 1? So the Tower of Pisa, and you know what happens next? I trip on a step. Crash! It was something like a Mission Impossible 1. It was crazy times. So out of the very worst of possible times, I did not freeze. I did not freak out. I felt a moment of clarity. I felt a kick up my trousers, and I went and I did what I had to do, and it was the best thing I ever did. So that is the deal. If you don't ask, they don't say yes. If you ask, they might say no, and you find out you survive. And if you ask enough pretty girls at the disco, something positive happens. So let's get on with it. Let's just, put our energy out into the universe, have a bit of faith, have a bit of repetition, have a bit of consistency, and something will come back. And it did. So a story from my past, which was a bit of a life changer.
Yeah, informative and very entertaining. And you talk about what so many people get to, Matthew, that you got to a point of exacerbated leverage, right? And I was talking with a new coaching client last week, and she had said something to me. She said, and I hear it all the time, she goes, I know what to do, but I don't know why I don't do it. And I'm like, lady, I hear that all the time. I know what to do, but I don't do it. Or I've known what to do, or any version of that. And so I said, it hasn't been a great enough piece of leverage in your life for you to change proactively. I said, but now we're getting to the point because now you're having the conversation with me. And said, so what does it look like for you? And I ask people this question all the time. I said, I'm a huge question asker. And I said, what does it look like for you when this all becomes too much? Like, when is this situation going to become so overwhelming that you're going to make a change, whether you want to, whether you're ready or not? And she started explaining it to me. And I said, okay. I said, now that you know where your tolerations are going to end, I said, what would it look like? What would it feel like if you proactively addressed for that situation? And rather than having it happen unexpectedly, or when you're not prepared, or when you're at your most emotional, how about we take some proactive steps to mitigate that situation now? And then perhaps it doesn't become that exacerbated thing that overwhelms you and knocks you off your feet. And it's one more thing that you have to deal with. How about we start looking at it proactively? And through that process, I could tell she was very uncomfortable with that. And I said, are you used to being a reactionary person in your life? Where did that come from? Where did that stem from? And she started telling about her childhood and all the situations. And I said, okay. I said, what if you made up a different reality in your brain where money isn't scarce? I said, because money is scarce based on the situations that you had with your parents. I said, so now you think of it as a scarce resource, so it's hard to come by. It's hard to come. I said, but if you had a different perspective and you said, hey, money flows to me easily, effectively. Hey, money flows to me when I go out there and I earn it. Money flows to me when I come up with new and exciting ways of earning it. What are a couple of new and exciting ways that I could do that now? And her face looked at me like I was just like, where is this all coming from? And I'm like, this is coming from not living in fear and not living in a world that everything has to be perfect. Like you just said, Matt, take that imperfect action. Like I tell people all the time, fail your way to success. I was a 13-year-old homeless kid on the streets. My mom pulled me out of school, junior high school, lost the house, had to live in a car with 30 cats or 18 cats and 4 dogs. I was on and off the streets for 4 years. I had a horrible, horrible experience. I tried to kill myself twice. Fortunately, I sucked at it. I had all these experiences that are in a book that are coming out next year. And sit there and people still say, how did you go from being that homeless 7th grade dropout, Chris? How did you go from digging in dumpsters? And how did you go from having a gun put to your head? And how did you do that to becoming where you're at now? And I said, I took imperfect action. I said, my goal was to never be homeless again. Whatever I needed to do, my fight or flight, my survival was that I'm going to keep working, and I'm going to work as many jobs as I need to in order to at least put a roof over my head. So that's number one. I said, number two, I'm not going to live in a way that my mother has been living, where she's been running from her problems, inebriating herself, or blaming every single person in her life for where she's at. And I noticed at a very young age, when she blamed everybody else, she took the opportunity, again, that opportunity for her to solve her own problems, because there were her dad's problems and her mom's problems and her ex-employer's problems and society's problems, because she was a female in the 50s. And it was there. And I'm like, So if you just take some proactive responsibility for the situation you're in, and I like how you almost said it before, Matthew, the situation we're all in right now, whoever's listening to this, wherever you're listening to it, watching it, it is what it is. I tell people 5 powerful words. It is what it is. I have cancer. I can't pay my bills. My relationship sucks. My boss sucks. My car is breaking down. My faucet leaks. It is what it is. Now the next thing is, what can I do about it? What am I willing to do about it? Can I ask somebody for help?
Yeah.
Is there something I can Google or YouTube in order for myself to fix it? what's the responsibility that I could take to be active in the solutions of my life? Because again, one of my simplistic things is you're either part of the problem or part of the solution.
Totally.
So in your life, Matthew, when you think about the successes and failures you've had, what are some of those prized rules that help you get by in situations now? Like when you think back, like, okay, if I come across somebody who might be a dick, or I might come across somebody who's a terrible customer, or somebody who's rude, or somebody who doesn't pay their bills, like now you have some tools in your belt to be able to proactively rather than reactively respond to those. And that's what I want to teach people listening tonight is we don't always have to be in a reactive state because we don't make the best choices.
You've just triggered. I lived in the Czech Republic. I had a sales role 1 million years ago, and a New Jersey man who actually got in contact with me for some rather tragic news last week. And he had really annoyed a pretty tough guy client, a big French corporate client. And he came back with this French corporate client is horrible, nasty, disgusting, and horrible, and it'll never go anywhere. So you could go into that. It's impossible. Procrastination. There's nothing to do. Avoid them. What did Mr. Hill Jr. do? I was much younger then. I phoned him up. I went along there, and I thought, what you're not getting is there was a sort of -10 energy, but there was a 10 energy. We just had to change the polarity. It sounded horrible. There was tons of need. There was tons of energy. We just had to change the polarity. So I went in there. And my mate Paul was a talker. I was a listener, rather like the hostage negotiator. How did you talk them down? I didn't. I listened them down.
Right.
That's another story. We'll talk about hostage negotiation some other time. And we did this thing, and he goes, ba, 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 ba. We got the deal. It was the first deal I got in Prague. Imagine, again, I turned up there. I knew nothing. I knew nobody. Oh, my word. I had a missus in tow. We didn't have the kids at that stage. But, it would have been fairly shameful to leave as a total failure after 90 days. So this was something of a relief. And then the only thing that I had to lie about, on the way back, he goes, do you know Paul Feeney? No, never heard of him. So this guy who'd crashed and burned, never heard of him. Disappeared, that guy. We got the deal. We got the cash. I was set. It was a base for a really amazing time outside of Europe with an amazing bunch of people who just came out of communism. And I could teach them. You talk about helping a lot of people in 90 countries. We could help dozens of people create a capitalist career.
Wow.
So it was a complete joy. It was a complete joy. I mean, I met the Queen, Prince Philip, Margaret Thatcher, God rest her soul, God rest all of their souls, every Czech prime minister. Amazing times. So what's the deal? You literally flip can't to can, shouldn't to, hey, let's do it anyway, and mustn't to says who.
So those are your transfer words.
They are my fun words. And what's the deal? Can I share something? One of the best exercises. Yours was very personal and emotional, but I'm going to take that emotion and put it into a planning exercise, which is wonderful. Say you've got a book coming out. Okay, you've got a book coming out. How many copies do you want to sell?
Haven't even thought about it. Millions.
Okay, so let's all right, mate. All right, let's start with a million. All right, so there's this wonderful thing, and if you are a bit pessimistic and a procrastinator and all this, you're going to love and be very good at the first bit. It's much easier for negative people to be negative. So the more negative you are in part one, the better it's going to be, which is, okay, it's a crash and burn failure. This book doesn't even sell one. Your bestie doesn't buy it. What has happened? So you get a piece of paper, left-hand side. What did you not do? So it's a future looking back. What did you not do? Give me 3 things. What did you not do which resulted in 0 sales? What did you not do? Tell me, Christopher.
I didn't ask that person to buy it.
So you didn't get on social media. You got a crappy cover. You didn't get any galley copies reviewed and put the reviews in. You didn't get a famous person to write a foreword. You didn't write brilliant blurb. You took the cover photograph with a Kodak Instamatic. You wrote it in Sanskrit for an American market. You put a weird size because you thought it was funny. You did all this sort of nonsense. So, and almost the most catastrophic, and have some fun with it. And then the amazing power is you just flip to I didn't to I do, I got it wrong to I got it right. And you will have a ready-made blueprint for success. And you will have done it. I'm paranoid. I'm not creative. I'm not a problem solver. I'm a depressive. Yeah, sure. Go for it, mate. And then flip it over there and you will get a blueprint for success. Great fun. Works. It works. It works.
How have you applied that in your own life? Aside from the example that you gave us before, but where's another example where you took a situation that maybe you didn't have confidence or even arrogance or assurance about, but you were able to spin it by flipping the script on how you believed your success would be with it?
Well, yeah, keeping it pretty simple, sort of, I'll break out to something more into. Couple of times I have crashed and burned. You know, in 2008, the sea washed away my income with the financial blow up, and in 2020 with COVID. So you just have to sort of do your stuff there, and you flip. I mean, I've used that technique. A bit like who can you call? Who can you call to get your car fixed, or who can you call for a lift today? And it's just, who can I call? And that is an amazing thing. So when COVID hit, if you type something in your email bar and you put A, you will get all your A's.
Right.
B, and you'll get all your B's. And I looked at them and I tried to think, is there a communication I can put out to that person? So you put out 2,000 communications and you get a year's salary. And the funnier thing is, why the bloody hell didn't I do that last year? I mean, that's the better question. You know, there's a quick one. There was a bomb that went off in the city, and I went. It was called James Capel, which was a stockbroker. It doesn't matter. And I was in a room that was boarded up, so there was the bomb damage was on the other side. And this guy said we were up and running. Where I was told, this was the chief executive of this place. He goes, we were up and running within 24 hours with the 180 essential staff. So I asked a question, but we've got 600 staff. What do the rest of them do? And so there's this idea, you know, just it's an approach, it's an attitude of, right, everyone can help me if I give them the opportunity. So, you know, what can everyone do? A friend can lend you money. Anyone can make a referral. Somebody can tell you what you can't see yourself. A side hustle, an income source, make an introduction, give you some feedback. Matthew, the only thing really stopping you is X. Yep. Oh, so I never knew that. And here we go. So become addicted to it. You've got, and everyone loves you. I do find that one-to-one, you send
everybody loves what? Everybody loves what, Matthew? What specifically did they love?
They don't want to destroy you, stand on your neck, or watch you. They are going to get a bit of a warm buzz themselves by throwing you a lifeline through being decent human beings. So their brand, their heart, their credibility points are going to go up by being decent. So and the tone, they're going to react to your tone. So if you are decent and make a reasonable request, they are going to be civilized in return. They win because they feel better. You win because you get that little nugget of gold that you need. So it's really just, who are they? How do they fit into their world and my world? What is the request? Quite a funny one. And so I did a bit of stand-up comedy, and I wrote a funny little, so I'll call it a postcard. It was an email. And I chucked that out. People who hadn't really bothered to respond to previous things, because it was so personal, they came back and said, Matthew, that's the most extraordinary story, bloody, bloody, blah. And a couple of them threw me some business. And so you make it personal. Or we did a funny one. So Donald Trump, you could be love or hate. Doesn't matter. So I just said last year, whenever it was, January, February, New month, new year, new president, brackets, or a recycled one anyway. Didn't put my polarity, didn't ask their polarity. What I wish for you is growth, excitement, agility, and success, which you obviously richly deserve. That was it. Quite a short thing. I sent out 40 critical emails and I got 5 substantial pieces of business, one which went over a whole year. That's 40 emails. But it starts with the basics. Who do I know? Who are they in their world? Who are they in my world? Who am I in my world? Who am I in their world? And then you connect. And so it can be, I mean, in terms of, so what would I say to your folks? You know, how can we get to an 8 out of 10 quality for confidence and communication, which is sort of what we're doing now.
Right.
But what we've done is set a bar. And can you imagine, how many listeners have you got here? Can you imagine all of us got to, within a reasonable space of time, an 8 out of 10 quality and confidence for communication? This group right now, anyone listening, we would change the world in 90 days. I think, wow, well, push the envelope.
Yeah. I love that, Matthew. And I love what you're talking about is it's that ownership and it's that ability to see within the minutia and the fog and everything else that might be right in front of us that we feel like we can't, or it's too hard, or I've never been able to do this. What you're talking about here is that probability, that possibility to sit there and, okay, you know, in this situation, what can I do to really own the possible outcomes that are going to help me in the situation? But yes, so many people stay paralyzed and they're like, oh, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. I don't know who to call. I don't want to be like a needy. I don't want to. And I ask them, like, do you want to solve the problem? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. Is this a unique problem that you've not had in your life before? Yes. Do you think, yes or no, it's going to take some unique solutions perhaps to find a way to solve this for yourself? Yes. Do you feel that by solving this problem, since it's unique, on the other side of this, you're going to be able to help so many other people who might have the same situation? And you also might be leading by example for your kids and other people to follow in how you handle this, because what you're handling here is something that other people are going to have to handle as well. So can we shift our perspective about that? Can we see ourselves as this is an opportunity to stand tall and be a leader for somebody who might not, know what it looks like? Yeah. Okay, cool. And so for me, I have to create leverage for my clients, a lot of leverage. And so there was somebody that came to me a while back. I use this quite often, and people sit there and sat there and we were talking. And the long of the story of it is, I said, if I asked you to come up with $10,000 in the next 7 days, and it can't be illegal, immoral, or unethical, I said, would you do it?
In that?
I said, would you do it? Would you be able to come up with $10,000 in the next 7 days, not illegal, immoral, unethical? And the person proceeded to tell me, and it's happened many, many times over a Zoom call, wow, oh my God, if I could do that, Chris, my problems would solve, and blah, blah, all these excuses and all these validations for why they're a victim and all that stuff. And I say, okay. I said, I get you. $10,000 is a lot of money. I said, especially when you pop it into somebody's brain like that, just willy-nilly like that. I said, can you tell me who in your life you love the most? And I kind of knew where this was going anyway. And she said, my son. And I said, how old's your son? She said, he's 9. My son was 8 at the time. I said, I totally get that. On a scale of 1 to 10, because I like to frame things out for people. You can't pick 7 because everybody always picks 7. Scale of 1 to 10, 10 being best, how much would you do for your son? Would you take a bullet for your son? Yes, absolutely. I would do anything for my son. I love my son. I say, okay, cool. So you come home from work tomorrow now, but I always tell him, I say, I apologize because we're going to go dark. We're going to go dark for a second. You're going to walk in the door and your son, Joshua, James, whatever his name was, you're going to walk in the door and there's going to be a gentleman standing there with a 9mm pistol to his forehead. And you're going to walk through the door and you'll be like, oh shit, I thought I was having a bad day before. And the guy's going to look at you. He's going to say, this guy right here is not going to have any brains left in 7 days unless you come up with 10 grand. And by the way, it can't be illegal, moral, or unethical. I said, now what's your answer? Immediately, I would do this, I would do this, I would do this, I would do this, I would call that person, I would sell that. I'm like, how much shit do you have in your house that you could sell that really you say you're tied to and it's a family heirloom, but if you could sell that thing for $10,000 and you could get yourself out of debt, or you could start a side business, or you could do whatever it is you need to do, get some teeth, whatever it might be, I said, by doing that thing, how much would that help catapult you into other areas of your life to be able to do things? Oh my God, Chris, that would open this up, and that would open this up. And I'm like, yeah, possibilities. I said, but the probability of you getting those possibilities is zero if you still could think like you think right now. And so what I just did is I scared the shit out of you, and I gave you an opportunity to come up with alternatives. And I also gave you the opportunity to think about what is your priority in life. Is your priority hanging on to shit just because your mom told you to hang on to it and it's a family heirloom and everybody? Or is now the priority survival? Is now the priority not only survival, but thrival? Can you take that money? Can you take that ingenuity? Can you take that creative energy? And can you get your son to buy into that? Can you get some family members to buy into that? Is there a business you can start? Is there something you can start making or start selling? What things can you start doing now that in 5 years may seem like a whole lot of work, but are ultimately going to reward you with new systems and new thought processes and new revenue streams and new opportunities for your kid to make money? I said, how does that feel when you just think about that? And she said, it feels, what was the word she used? Not comforting, reassuring.
Reassuring, yeah.
And I said,
I have a similar thing.
I said, you just need to do that for yourself. I said, I just planted seeds. I said, so from this point forward, you, Caroline, you get to water those seeds. When you wake up, you get to wake up and say, man, it's a fucking cool day. I get to try to figure out how I can do something new and creative and inspiring and get my son involved. Or you can wake up and go, fuck, what am I going to do today? How am I going to make this? How am I going to do this? This is going to suck and traffic's going to suck. And oh my God, when is it ever going to end? I said, you can wake up one of two ways. Which way do you think you're going to wake up tomorrow? And which way are you going to start to think tomorrow?
No, I love it. No, I have a similar thing with sort of kidnapping your grandmother. Same sort of idea, different gun.
So we're both evil fuckers.
There's a softer way, which I think yours is more effective, which is how are you going to make $1? How, it's a softer, it's same idea. Mm-hmm. How are you going to make 10? Okay, you're going to make 100. And it's a softer solution. Here we go. There's a play I do with a group of people, problem solving. I've just did it last week. Creativity for problem solving. Sweet. It's a 6 foot wall. How are you going to get over it? And people go, I got a ladder, run and jump. He gets on my back and he climbs over. Oh, sorry, I got it wrong. It's not 6, it's 60 foot. And then what you get, which is like your energizing, here we go, times 10, there. Right. And then suddenly it's real creativity. It's real sort of adrenaline. It's so much more. And they, you've got 10 answers for the 6 foot wall, and you've got 30 brilliant, amazing answers for the 60 foot wall. And then I come in a bit sarky. You've got the idea. Why the bloody hell didn't you think of those answers for just the normal situation? You've turboed it. You've made it more. And they do get it, right? You've got to crank it up and work much harder. And the beautiful proof, the evidence, the absolute witness truth is you did it. You did it. There was no gun in reality. You absolutely did it. You just got to be as creative as that. Just don't drop the revs on your creativity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just don't put filters up. I tell people, what would life be like if you didn't put a filter up or an immediate excuse as to, oh, I've already tried that, or I tried that before and it didn't work, or so-and-so they think that's a bad idea. Like all the different ways. What would it feel like if you didn't put up that boundary, that block immediately when you came up with a new idea or somebody comes up with a new idea? What would that feel like? Oh my God, that feels so possible and hopeful. And so I take people back through the process of this. I try to keep things simple, especially when we're doing like a foundational thing. I'm like, take a look at the 5 people you're around the most. And you talked about this earlier, Matt. You talked about the fact, like, who are you going to call? And I tell people all the time I just did it with my group coaching program. I have a group coaching program and a singular program. And I just did that with a group coaching program. I said, who's your team? I'm like, what do you mean? Nice. Who's my team? I said, who's the person you trust? Who's the person who empowers you? Who's the person who holds you accountable? And who's the person that mentors you? And it cannot be the same person. And most people have one person in their life that they call on for everything. I'm like, who's your best creative thinker in your friendship? My friend is Jock. I know if I call Jock and give him a question, he's going to give me 75 things. So, hey, Jock, can I call you on Friday? And can we do a brainstorming hour for around an hour? I need to do some brainstorming around scarcity. So I front end load Jock. I tell him, hey, can I have some time? Jock's excited because he gets to help Chris, because Chris is always helping Jock. And so I tell these people, like, you should have 5 people on your team. Like, you could call. I could call Matthew. I could call Caroline. Hey, if I need financial advice, I could call my friend Mark. He's really smart with money. Hey, Mark, I got money in my 401k. I'm kind of scared about what's going on. What would you do? Like, who can you call? What are the people that you can? Hey, I could call my friend. Jesus Christ, why did I just forget his name? Sean, Allie and Sean. Sorry, I had to think of her name to think of his name. I said, I could call Sean for people things. Like, I tell people all the time, like, who is your team? Like, Chris, embarrassing, I don't have a team. Everybody depends on me. And I'm like, okay, so when does that shift? Oh, that shifts now. Okay, why? Why does that shift now? Tell me why that shifts now, because it sounds like you've been a doormat for your entire life. It sounds like you've been there for everybody else. You give everybody else everything, and then you're fucking left with nothing. Am I right? Most of the time, people on their side of the camera go, yeah. I'm like, so where do we develop that attitude? Where do we develop that scarcity mindset? Where do we develop that worthiness? And so when you think about your path, Matthew, talk to us about that. What experiences did you experience as a kid that helped formulate some of your adult perspectives that you have had to since rewire based on what happened as a kid?
Now I tell you what, I don't know where I got this insane inner certainty from. My childhood was not as rough as yours, but it wasn't smooth either. We were poor and the dad left and all that sort of stuff. For some reason, I had some feedback circuit, which meant I felt I was going to be okay. But there were some pretty shitty moments along the way with health and money and people and all sorts of stuff. And I think what I was doing, this is psychobabble probably. Yeah, I was looking for the evidence of certainty and finding it wherever I bloody looked.
You nailed it. You were looking for the evidence. So I would sort of make it work. I would make it. You could call that optimism, although I don't think it was. It was. Where there's muck, there's brass, as they say. Where there's dumpster diving. It's a treasure trove. Is it trash or treasure? It's that sort of idea. Sometimes.
I'm just building up, and I tell you what, I had this weird idea. I remember with physical exercise, getting my Dunlop Green Flash, you may or may not have had those in America, and going out and running and getting a bike and going cycling and collecting stamps and reading books. And so it would be to have a go, to open a new avenue and do something. And of course, the feedback from that is it's totally amazing. It is totally amazing. Peaking, relatively young, when I read, are you ready for this? Ulysses. No one on this show right now has read Ulysses. No, type it in if you've read Ulysses.
Ulysses S. Grant? That's the only Ulysses I know.
Ulysses, not quite. So it's James Joyce, an Irishman, and it's the 16th of June, 1904. Stephen Dedalus, Leopold Bloom, and Molly Bloom. It's one day. It's a huge book, as big as the Bible, and it's set in Dublin, and it's piss and shit and sex and food and money and poverty and wandering around. Sounds like nothing. And you read this in the fourth grade?
And you read this in the fourth grade?
No, not quite the fourth grade, but relatively young. It's the best book I've ever read. It's a pretty tricky book to read, and it's absolutely extraordinary. So I would have a go, and I failed a million times, but I'd have a go at various things. I remember I used to go youth hosteling, which is sort of hiking in the thing, and just try and go further. And I would go cycling. So I cycled all around Ireland. I was talking about it with somebody on Saturday. Cycled all around Ireland, and I got it wrong. So I got lost. My first night in the pissing rain, and I didn't have a bivvy, didn't have a tent, just have my bike and me. Couldn't go to sleep because I would die of hypothermia. So I had to sort of keep shivering. And then in the morning, these cows were far too close to me. My crappy, cheap Casio watch had stopped working because of the condensation. It's Sunday in Ireland, decades ago. Nothing is open. So I was cycling, feeling totally sorry for myself, and then fell on what we might call a tobacconist, where they have all the candy bars in there, buying the whole shop and eating it, wearing all my clothes. And then what happened? I got to a youth hostel, which had closed. I was in October. It had closed in September. And people said, we saw you go by. So these people came up after me to the closed youth hostel. They opened it up and set a peat fire. This grass condenses down to this thick earth, which then they use like logs to light a fire. And they put on some soup for me. And again, I was... that optimism. Am I going to die today? Is this my last day? Am I going to be found in a ditch or a skeleton in 30 years' time? No, I'm going to be rescued by really kind people who are doing something nice because it's good to be kind and nice. And if you believe in the universe and the connection between people and the fundamental decency of 99.9% of the population, then something amazing is going to happen. And then it repeated itself. I was... the Ring of Kerry and the rest of it, it pissed down every single day. People would come in for an hour, have some apple pie, take your socks off, put them by the fire, put them on the radiator. It was extraordinary. So I guess have I been lucky? Have I been putting out the right frequency of signal? I don't know. I've accumulated enough examples of sonar, beep, beep, request and receive.
Yep, the feedback loop
left me with an amazing feeling of just how good it can be. And what's my job? What's your job right now? What's our job together tonight is to help people to take the next step forward. And that's my day job with training and other things, with presentation skills, whatever it is. Oh, I can't, I mustn't, I shouldn't. I'm shy. I can't stand the microphone. Oh, I'd die in front of people I know. Oh, I'd die in front of strangers. Da, 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 da. And then you just work on through and get people to do something amazing.
I love that. That's one of the greatest joys in my life of being a coach now for well over 20 years. Before the word coach came out, I don't like the word coach. I've always tried to find a way to call myself something different. But yeah, I love being able to give people that opportunity to see the possibility. And you just said one of my favorite words. I sell these bracelets, and people ask me, like, one side says believe, one side says no excuses. This one says no excuses and unstoppable. But people ask me about the word believe. And I said, you know what? I said, when I was sleeping in the back of that station wagon, it was raining outside, and there was 18 cats and 4 dogs in this car with me and my mom. And it was humid and sweaty and stinky and everything. I still remember going to sleep that night and thinking, all I want is my own house. All I want is my own house. All I want is my own place to take care of myself. And in that moment, honestly, Matthew, I realized that it wasn't me depending on anybody else. It was me finding the strength within myself to believe that no matter what I did, as long as I didn't give up, hence the word unstoppable. Hence some word, people would sit there and ask me in interviews, like, how did you make it? And I said, I never stopped. I said, when I went back to get my GED here in the United States, a general equivalency diploma is something you can get if you drop out of school. And so I dropped out in 7th grade. So I was 17, 18. And this gentleman said, hey, Chris, why don't you go get your GED and go to college? And the inside voice was, are you fucking crazy, dude? Do you realize I live in an apartment with 5 guys eating ketchup sandwiches? You have no idea what I've been through, bro. You live in a fucking nice house with furniture you don't even sit on. Like, those houses, the people in the front room, they had furniture they never sat on. Me, I didn't have furniture growing up at fucking all. Like, I had a twin bed in our living room as a couch. So there's this guy, oh yeah, you need to get a GED and get a college degree. And I'm like, dude, I'm working fucking 5 jobs. Like, you don't understand. But in that moment, I thought, he's got a lot of the things that I want. So maybe some of the things he thinks and some of the things he does, maybe I should shut up and listen.
No, exactly. You and I are the same.
I had the chip on my shoulder. I had my mother who had to be right about everything. We don't ask for help. We're too tough. We're resilient. We're all this. And I just sat there and thought, all right, GED. I have no idea what it is. I have no idea how to get it. I was told I was stupid in school. I was a failure all my life. I was beaten up from kids at school, beaten up by kids on my block, beaten up in my own house. I had zero self-confidence. Matthew, when I tell you that, I had zero self-confidence. But the reason why I'm sitting here today is because I never gave up, and I picked up the phone back in the old days, and I said, hi, do you guys have what's called a GED program? No. Okay, thank you. Do you know anybody who does? No. Okay. I made 13 phone calls until I got a hold of Wintersburg High School in Huntington Beach, California that said, yeah, we have a GED program. And then my next thing was, okay, I don't know what to do next, but somebody said I should take my GED test. I dropped out of school in the 7th grade. Oh, sure, we could do that for you, da, 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 da. And I said, okay, what do I do next? And then they said, come down to the school. And then I said, what do I do next? And they said, take a test. And I took the test. I said, what do I do next? And they said, wait. And I said, what do I do next? And they said, you need to make school up. And then I did that. And I said, what do I need to do next? They said, you need to take the test again. I took the test and I passed. And then I said, okay, now I did the GED thing. What do I got to do next? And I just kept asking that question. What do I need to do next? And then I went to school. I went to college and I walked onto the college campus and I thought, they're going to throw me out of here. Like, I had a beard. I did not look like kids. I was 17. I had a beard. I looked like an adult. I smoked cigarettes. But again, I walked in there and I said, hi, I got my GED. I don't know if that's good enough, but I'd like to come to school here. And they said, okay. And then 3 hours later, I walked out a college student. And then 12 years later, I got my master's degree. And so I tell people, like, through the conversation that you and I have been having tonight, Matthew, is the fact that you and I have been in situations that offered us the opportunity to be a victim or to be a victor, to be, oh, it's everybody's fault. I'm out here. I don't know what I'm doing. Nobody told me this. Oh, I guess I'll just go home. But because of what you have inside of you, and everybody has this inside of them, is everybody can take these moments. And if they're overwhelmed, they can sit there and say, you know what? I haven't been there for myself. I'm going to start being there for myself. Yeah. And based on what Matt and Chris said tonight, I'm going to stop using the word can't. I'm going to say, if I say I can't do something, I'm basically saying I won't. And instead of saying I'm going to try to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to try to eat healthier, I'm going to try to drink more water, I'm going to try to be more honest, I'm going to try to listen to better. Shut the fuck up with the trying. There is no try. You either do it or don't. That's the way life works. You either do it or you don't. You either get up and go to the gym every day at 5 o'clock. You're never going to feel like it. You're never going to wake up and go, woohoo, I get to go. You're going to wake up and be miserable. But guess what? At 6:01, when you walk out of the gym, you're going to be 98% ahead of everybody else in the world.
Totally.
And you're going to say, now I get to go to my job. No, I don't have to. I get to. I get to do these things. I get to make these choices. I get to keep people in my life, right? So as we're wrapping up this conversation, Matthew, a lot of people deal in terms of fear. I'm afraid of what's going to happen. I'm afraid of not knowing. I'm afraid of being a failure. I'm afraid of mistakes. I'm afraid of this. So much fear is driving people right now, Matthew. Yeah. What can you say to people listening to inspire them to readdress that fear as something different?
Well, I wrote a blog fairly recently to add a sentence. Now, you've got show and tell in America, but you've got a lot of other places like Ireland, Scotland. I know you know Scotland, England, where people are quite introverted, they're quite shy in terms of culture. What I think it's about your zone of control, as Covey would say, your zone of control. And I do add an extra sentence in every interaction, every day with every person. Just add an interaction. That could be a request, or it could just be social lubricant, and so we go. And just see how your world expands. And that will include being fearful of speaking to people. And surprise, surprise, what's the worst case scenario? Well, we won't talk about that. They could stab you to death with a knife. Let's not go there. But they could just say, shut up, fuck off. And you survived. You are fuck off proof. That is amazing. And so your zone increases. Your zone increases. You can't take over the world like a megalomaniac nut job in one day. But if you do this for 200 days, you will be in a very different and very special and very exciting place. So get on with it. Get on with it.
I agree wholeheartedly. Get on with it. And I tell people this thought about fear. And I learned this for myself here in Southern California. We have what's called Magic Mountain. It's an amusement park. So the high roller coasters and all the scary shit. And I had been there many, 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 many years ago. And I was waiting at that point for the tallest ride, the scariest ride, which was Colossus. And I sat there, and at that point I was in my 30s. I'm like, I dig scary rides, but I'm not a fan of heights. And I'm not I'm like, all right, I'm doing this, but I'm pushing myself a little bit. But it was young in my coaching and my speaking career. And I remember I always watch it. Again, people watching. That's what I do. I watch people, see what they do. And the people in front of me were laughing and all carrying on and looking up and da-da-da. And I saw the people behind us all quiet and kind of And I could tell that the people behind us might have been foreigners and maybe not spoke English, but still, you'd be laughing in your own language. But these people, those people. And I'm like, oh, I think they're excited and I think they're afraid. Same experience, different perspective. Different explanation. They're like, oh my God, I hope it's going to be fun. Are we going to put our hands up? Perspective. Oh my God, this is what we're waiting for all day. Yeah, this is going to be so crazy. Da, 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 da. Yeah, let's do this. And what are we going to do afterwards? Nice. So planning, excitement. Nobody's chicking each other out. Oh yeah, we're going to do this. We're going to put our hands up. This group over here, I'm listening because we were in line for 3 hours. So this is the totality of the conversation. I'm like, what if the mechanic didn't show up today? What if the thing breaks? What if they're excited about all get out, like they're this. I'm like, same situation. And so from that point forward, that was in early 2000s. From that point forward, I thought we as observers in this thing of life, we get to observe things being, oh my God, that's so scary. I don't know how I'm going to do that, to how fucking cool is that? I've never done that before, but yeah, man, I'd love to go speak on stage. Everybody I met that like, oh, I'm so scared to speak on stage. I'm like, why? I'm like, because they're going to be judging you. Why? So who cares? You're judging them. Doesn't matter. No big deal. I said, they're actually rooting for you. Everybody in the audience is rooting for you to do well, but you're up there going, pow, pow, pow. I'm going to shoot myself in the feet first, so I can't even fucking stand on my own 2 feet. I said, what would it be like if you just started having that confidence and already started having that belief, like they're with you? The world is in on it. They want you to succeed. There's conspiracy for you to be happy. People aren't trying to sabotage you. They're not trying to sabotage you. It's your choice that you and I have developed in this conversation, Matthew. Thank you. Is we have that opportunity to be keen and be participatory in our life. You have been participatory in your life. I'm sure there's many more examples of you going and be like, all right, I'll figure it the fuck out.
No, just one sentence. When I'm doing my presentation coaching and everyone's crapping in their pants, it's not about you. It's all about the audience. And the second question is, the audience wants to love you, wants every ounce of quality and possibility to come out of you and flow into them. They want to clap, laugh, and pay you $1 million. That's the truth. That is the truth.
Mm-hmm. Well, Mr. Matthew, I can't believe we've been talking now for an hour, and I promise
you do go on.
Yeah. Oh well, I'm sure we could. I'm sure we could talk for many more hours. But I do try to keep these respectfully at about an hour for people listening, people watching, and of course you over there in the UK.
They're busy people.
You got to go to sleep. So where can people, I'm sure people are fascinated by the conversation. Where can people learn more about Matthew, learn about your presentation skills, give them your elevator pitch of what it is that you do and where people can get a hold of you? I put it up on the screen for everybody to see who is watching. They can get a hold of you via LinkedIn, but feel free to share your contact email or whatever.
LinkedIn. So my handle is Hill Matthew and then 3 digits, 100. So Hill Matthew 100. And I've also got presentation-skills.uk. That's far too complicated, but don't worry about it. Get in touch via LinkedIn. Happy to link in with you. If you want a 15-minute conversation, do it. Happy to do that. If you want some help in terms of presenting, and I do other things as well, let's have some fun. I wish you the courage to take the next step. And if you need a little bit of help from me, happy to provide that.
Beautiful. And for everybody watching, of course, it's up on the screen there again. Give it to them again for people who are listening. They might be driving.
Yes, exactly. So it's Hill Matthew 100. So LinkedIn and all that, Hill Matthew 100.
Brother, this has been exactly the conversation that I knew it was going to be tonight, in having that conversation with you last week and preparing for us to be able to dive deep into this. Thank you so much for your transparency. Your humor, your intelligence, your desire to help people who are listening on this podcast to break through, to have that breakthrough in their own experience. Thank you for that. I look forward to us staying in contact and supporting one another across the pond. And I appreciate your sense of humor, and I appreciate your approach to life, because that's so important. The fact that we get to take that responsibility, that ownership. And so many times people sit there and say, oh, I'm tired of being a grown up. I'm tired of having the responsibility. I'm tired of this. But the beautiful part of life is that it continues to grow and it continues to open and it continues to blossom if we participate in that way, if we continue to water the seeds and water the plants that we've been given, those things will continue to grow. We will continue to grow. But if we stop watering ourselves, stop taking care of ourselves, and we continue to pollute our soil and pollute ourselves by the news that we take in and the people that we surround ourselves with, chances are we're going to wilt and die. And so I appreciate you, brother. I'm going to be making snippets out of this particular conversation and sharing this across all forms of social media so people can get the wisdom that was conveyed here in the conversation tonight. I appreciate you. I'm going to definitely be sharing your LinkedIn out when I go over there and share out the show there. But again, it's on the screen for everybody who is watching that. I just look forward to having more conversations with you tonight, or with you in the future. I'm going to place you backstage. I'm going to close out the show, but don't go anywhere so I can still talk to you in a second.
Well, thank you, Christopher. You are a special human being.
Thank you. I'm just Chris. All right. Don't go anywhere. So there you have it, guys and girls, boys and children of the Kick-Ass Nation. Again, the opportunity for you here in the conversation tonight is send me an email, info@noexcusescoach.com, building out the plan and the repertoire for 2026 schedule. Based on the feedback that I've received so far over the last couple of months and doing surveys out to you guys, it seems you want more of people like Matthew in our lives. So this year in 2025, you made the request in 2024. You said, hey, Chris, we want to see more solo shows with you. We want to hear more shows with you and hear your thoughts and ideas on relationships and success and all these different things. And that's what I brought you here in 2025. It is a whole load of Chris and not a whole load of anybody else. In 2020, we had a bunch of mixed guests. I think I did a solo show every month, and you guys were digging that. So what we're doing back in 2026 is we're going to do a couple of things. Number one, we're going to bring guests back because the opportunity to hear me, you guys hear me all the time, and I tend to really repeat a lot of the same concepts over and over again. So we're going to bring back guests. And then we're also going to be talking about topics perhaps that I myself don't understand, or I've heard of that perhaps I don't have a good articulate understanding of. And so what we're going to be doing in 2026, again, based on what you said, is we're going to be learning some things together. And my intention with learning things together is this: how you approach something. Tonight, Michael and I talked about how we approach situations, how we approach things in terms of, okay, am I going to be resourceful, or am I going to be a victim? Am I going to be a bumbling idiot who doesn't have any opportunities and goes home with my tail between my legs? Or am I going to figure it the fuck out in the situation that I'm in? And so what we're going to do is we're going to be bringing you conversations, some of the things that are going on in the world today. Like I just had somebody telling me they're still in leadership, and they were talking about managing multiple generations in the workplace. And that's something I used to be an expert at. I used to talk about managing the silent generation with the baby boomer generation with the Generation X, and then the Gen Ys when the Gen Ys were first coming in. So I was talking about managing multiple 4 generations in the workplace. I don't do that anymore, but now we've got Gen Z, and then we got the new generation, which my son is part of, Gen Alpha. So now we got Gen Ys leading the political area, or the professional area. You got Gen Xers who are having challenges getting employment because they're older, like myself. You got those situations. You got Gen Z, you got Gen Y. We got a bunch of generations. So we're going to start talking about toxicity in masculinity, toxicity in femininity. We're going to be talking about managing different work generations in the workplace, understanding the different generations, taking a look at what people are now experiencing as a result of COVID, right? Some people are coming out of COVID and fucking after COVID, I'm going to be the best I'm ever going to be. And some people have come out of COVID and they think they're still in COVID, right? Their mentality is still there. I'm like, no, the world's open up. You can actually go out there and go for your life and take responsibility, take actions. Because at the end of the day, here's the thing. Regrets really suck. I've got a book right here. For those of you guys listening on the podcast, The 5 Regrets of the Dying. The 5 Regrets of the Dying by Bronnie Ware. That book will fuck you up. I will tell you that, because people are dying with their regrets, and no matter what money they had, no matter what fame they had, you know, when you get down to your last hours and your last days, your last weeks, your last months, and it's going to happen for all of us, we are going to have nothing but time to reflect back on our lives. And for me personally and my coaching clients, I want us all to look back with a sense of accomplishment, a sense of pride, a sense of humility, a sense of tiredness. Like when I get to the end of my life, I want to be tired. I want to know that I fucking showed up, that I gave it my all. I have a 9-year-old son. I'm 57. I'll be 57 in a couple months. Like, so physically keeping going and keeping that mind, that young mindset, and staying active and, you know, getting to the end of my journey and looking back and going, I didn't leave anything on the table. I had a successful corporate career. I became a parent, businesses, speaking all around the world, 5 podcasts already, all sorts of things. Also, you know, physical material wealth. I have a 69 Charger downstairs, my dream car I've had since I was 18, guitars. I've created a life that I'm super, super proud of. But am I done? No. Every day, every journey, every decade is going to bring apart its own opportunities. Notice how I didn't say problems, its own opportunities. So now in my brain, I'm thinking, okay, I'm 56. They say, some of the experts I'm listening to said you should plan for the last decade of your life. And I've been planning for every decade and success and all these other things. But now I got to think about, okay, if I'm going to live to be 83, and here's where honesty comes in, guys. If I'm going to live to be 83, my last decade of life is 73 to 83. I'm 56 now. You do the math, right? And sometimes when you look at things in terms of years, it sounds bigger, right? Oh, I got 28 years left. You know, the average life expectancy is 28 years. But when you, again, change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, you think, I've got 28 Christmases left. And then you start thinking about, do I really have 28 Christmases left with my wife? Do I have 28 Christmases left with my family? Do I have 28 Christmases left with my son? No. So again, create that leverage in your life to be present in these moments. Be present with yourself. Be excited. Be curious. Like when you were a kid, be curious about your future. Be curious up until the day you die, and be out there doing those things and taking care of yourself and acting as if, like, I want to be 83 years old and have people go, fuck, I thought you were 63. Like right now, people can't believe that I'm 56. I'm like, oh, I thought you were in your early 40s. So now my goal is that when I'm in my 80s, people sit there and say, I thought you were in your 60s. Fucking hey, dude, let's go. So if I have a vision of where I'm going, the choices that I make today have an impact. The choices in what I eat, the choices in what I put into my brain, the choices of who I associate with, the choices that I make when I wake up in the morning and decide, okay, the pain in my back and the pain in my legs and everything is too excruciating and I just don't feel like doing life today. And then so I lay in bed and I stay there for another 2 hours. That makes me feel better in the moment. But then 2 hours later, I'm like, oh, I wasted 2 hours, right? So the choices that we make in our life, we have to have that accountability, that responsibility to ourselves, first and foremost. And sometimes we make those decisions. And was that in the best interest of myself, right? No, that was me running away from, okay, there's the reality of it. I can be honest. Okay, what is it that I need to do in the future to not run away? What is something that I could ask myself, or what is something that I could think about in that moment where I choose something differently, right? Stop choosing to be afraid, because your life's going to be over pretty quick anyway. Choose to live in that excitement. Choose to live in the wonderment. And if you're trying to do it all by yourself, I can tell you this, you're probably going to fail. But when you have people in your life, you have invested in people in your life. Like myself, I have coach. I have mentors. I have accountability partners. I have 10 people in my life at least that I can call in that have different responsibilities. Like we said before, the team, I've got a team plus. I've got a team plus. So if I have podcasts, I have all this, so I reach out to them. I have people that are older than me on my team. I have people that are 20 years older than me on my team. So I can go to them like, hey, what should I be thinking about now? What did you do when you were in your late 50s? So having people on your team that you can ask questions of and you can rely on, and then you build this little community of people within. But the biggest thing is that you got to go out and have those mentors for yourself. You have to pay. Like for me, I have my coach Sally, I've got Jock, I've got Walt, I've got Lee, I've got Marianne, I've got so many different people. So when you have those people in your life and you have that accountability, every week you start to grow and you start to lift and you start to try new things and opportunities in your life. And guess what? You start getting different results. And the biggest thing that I'd love for you to do this year is when you get value out of this particular broadcast, and I know you did, please, as payment to me, can you go buy some toys for some kids that maybe not going to have Christmas this year? Please. I'm doing a thing this week. I haven't announced it yet. I announced it to some people that I know and they've taken me up on it. I'm going to do coaching. So if you want an hour coaching with me, I'm raising money to buy toys for tots. So normally I charge $300 an hour. So anybody listening to this podcast, because I wanted to do this, and I know a lot of people are going to listen in the next week. So here's the thing. If you listen to this podcast and you reach out to me, info@noexcusescoach.com, I will give you a coaching session for $100. So I'm going to give you $200 off for an entire hour. You give me one situation, you come to me, and then we'll make this happen. And I'm going to take that $100 and go buy at least, hopefully, 3 toys. And then my wife and my son and I on Friday are taking them all down to this Stuff the Bus event. So we're going to show my son how we all together as a community buy presents and we give them to kids that aren't going to have Christmases. And how beautiful is that? So you guys get to get some coaching with me. I know many people reach out to me and they can't afford it. So this is my way of making it affordable. So $100 for an hour. I'm going to donate it all, go buy presents for the kids. So that's my ask of you. And if you can't afford $100, just please do what you can in your local communities. Let's all make this an amazing Christmas, whether you celebrate Christmas or not. I get people telling me that. Let's just make it a beautiful time in the holidays for people who are less fortunate, because there's a lot of people who have lost their jobs. There's a lot of people who are overwhelmed. And together, my whole mission is making this world a big, beautiful place that we can all wrap our arms around. All right. So thank you for tuning into this episode of the Raw Unscripted Show. Again, I encourage you to go back to listen to this, take notes. And of course, please reach out to Matthew Hill. He is a gem. He is a resource that you want to have in your life. We need people that are uplifting, that have got the real world talent, the real world experience to be able to help us in our businesses and our personal lives. So Matt's definitely one of those people. So connect with him, and we'll see you next week on the Raw and Unscripted Show.